Michael, glad that you can sit down with us. And as I said, I'm going to be talking with head coach Eggum about the season and everything that's going to be coming up. But to start with you, I want to go back to your days as a wrestler, and you were the first five-time All-American at Iowa. Obviously, we're on a grind throughout that entire career. We saw you fight injury. We saw you battle through the Big Ten. What is it about your career when you look back that you're just like, man, that was an absolute grind? And what's something that really sticks out to you as a wrestler before you even became a coach?
Yeah, it definitely the career ended up being a little bit longer than you plan whenever you step foot on campus, and obviously spent a lot of time there with the injuries and COVID and everything kind of extending it. But I think something that I'm proud of is that throughout that long career, I feel like I competed well. Every time I stepped on the mat and went out to compete, I thought I did a pretty good job of that, and I was proud of the way I competed. And I think that no matter what the outside circumstances were, whether it was injuries, whether it was shortened season, no fans, whatever the outside noise was, outside circumstances, just kind of focusing on getting the most out of myself and showing up on competition day ready to compete. And I think that that's something that I'm proud of. And when I look back on, I'm happy with how I was able to stay pretty consistent there.
Yeah. You mentioned, going through a lot of adversity, COVID, injury, shortened season, no fans. How does all of that adversity kind of shape and mold you as a coach and what you bring to the Minnesota program?
Yeah, I think the more that you face that adversity, the better equipped you are to deal with it. And I think having these experiences, I can help these guys that are surely going to face adversity. They're surely going to have problems, and they're probably going to be some similar problems to what I had and some different adversity, and just kind of helping them with how to handle it and where to direct their focus and to show them that there's a lot of things that are outside of your control, but if we can focus on the things we can control and go after them the right way, then we're going to have good results.
Mhm. So obviously you probably had, a pick of some different jobs that were open. What was it about the Minnesota program, Coach Eggum, Becker, all those guys that are on the Minnesota staff? What was it about them and that program that brought you in and made you want to go to Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, first off, being out at Brown, it was a pretty short time I was out there, but was a really good thing going, and it wasn't something that I was necessarily looking to leave because they're building something great there, and it's a really special place, and can't say enough good things about Coach Lean and the other guys that were on staff there and the guys on the team. But ultimately, I think it was just, with the position opening up here, and this is a pretty storied program that's had a lot of success and a lot of stability, and it's a close knit group. And I felt like it was something that I could see myself being a part of and making a difference. And this is a program that has, they've won national titles. They've been contending, and that's something that I felt like, that's what I want to be a part of. And being in the Big Ten and on the Big Ten network and kind of in the center of wrestling, those are all things that are exciting to me as a competitor and now as a coach. And you're still competing, I guess, in a different sense, but being in that environment is something that you love to be in.
Yeah. And you've been in that environment. You know what it takes to be successful in the Big Ten. You were in the Iowa room for many, many years around a lot of big time wrestlers and coaches. What are some of those things that you pulled from Iowa that you probably didn't realize you were doing, but as you were coaching, you're like, man, that is something that, Coach Brands used to tell me, or that's something that, one of my teammates used to do that you realize that you're now kind of espousing to your wrestlers.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just having accountability over your career and knowing that in a sense you can be your best coach, you can be your biggest advocate by, showing up and putting the work in and taking pride in your work and talking to yourself the right way and really just kind of having that attitude where every day you come in with a plan to get better. And I think that's something that all the coaches I've had have instilled in me, and that was a big philosophy at Iowa. And I think that that's something that I can carry forward into my coaching career. And obviously, everyone's going to have their own twist on how they do things, but that's kind of a core principle that showing up every day, ready to work and ready to make a difference is super important.
hmm Do you feel like you've pulled any of your coaching philosophies from, maybe, Strittmatter at Young Guns or maybe Coach Brands?
Yeah, definitely. I think that I've been fortunate to have a lot of really good coaches and coming up through Young Guns. Obviously, the principals there, and Jody wrestled at Iowa, so I'm sure it was a lot of things that he took from his time there, and he kind of shapes them his way. And I got to spend some time out, obviously a good bit of time out in Iowa, but I trained at Cornell for a year and a half after college and spent some time at Brown too. So I've gotten to kind of be around some different coaches, and you try to take the best from each program and mold it around what you feel like you do well. And I think that being able to kind of see different places has helped me to really shape how I want to be as a coach.
Mhm. When you're, with becoming a coach, your outlook has to shift a little bit, right? Because you're not the one that's doing it. You have to now explain it. You have to break it down. Where did that coaching philosophy come from for you? And what are some of the biggest impacts that you maybe not realize, maybe some of the biggest matches that you're pulling from as you're teaching technique, as you're talking to your guys? What are some of those matches that kind of come back to you as you're going through those things?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to think of specific matches because it was a long career, but I do think that one of the things that I really picked up on from the time I, started competing in college to the end and even competing a little bit after is not being 100% wrapped up in how I feel when I'm out on the mat or how I'm practicing that week and focusing on things. And sometimes you can kind of over evaluate yourself and internalize things. And instead of saying, it's not really going to matter how I'm going to feel because I know I prepare the right way. I know I'm going to compete the right way. So it's kind of getting guys to understand that how you feel isn't as important as you think to how you're going to perform if you're focused on the right things. If you're looking to score points, looking to build your lead, all those things, then you're going to kind of block those outside factors out a little bit.
Mhm. So you said before we came on that this is like your first week in the office. When you got to Minnesota, what was that first impression? And what really kind of impressed you once you got there?
Yeah, I think it's just the family atmosphere that I've noticed pretty much right away. Everyone's super close. I mean, this staff, they're all Minnesota wrestlers that have been here, and they got a lot of family and friends here, and so just kind of getting the opportunity to be a part of that community and feel how close everybody is has been super special because obviously it's a great program and something that you want to be a part of, but you also want to make sure that it's a place where you feel like you fit in, you feel like you're comfortable being around everybody, and it's a super tight knit group, which is something that you always look for.
Yeah, you mentioned that, each one of the guys they wrestled at Minnesota. You're the different guy coming in. What sort of things have you wanted to bring in that maybe they hadn't seen before, or just a different philosophy since you've been around so many other teams that you're seeing can really help the team with you being, like you said, you were at Brown, you trained at Cornell, you went to Iowa. What are some of those different philosophies that you feel you can bring to Minnesota?
I think some of it's obviously technical things, just things that I do a little bit differently. Everyone's kind of going to have their own style on things. So maybe just a different way I finish a shot or a different setup or something I like to do on top that's a little bit different. So there's obviously the technical side of it. And then in the training as well, I think just incorporating some different kinds of workouts where you're making sure that you're kind of hitting all the avenues, whether it's situational stuff, sparring stuff, whether it's on the live side of things. But I guess just kind of bringing in different structured workouts that maybe are a little bit different and then finding a way to add that to what these guys do. Because these guys, I mean, they've already produced a lot of great wrestlers and they know what they're doing. So to me, it's learning from them and taking kind of what they do and then giving them some different ideas of stuff that I've done or been around that's worked pretty well.
Hmm. How was it for you to make the transition to being a coach, a full-time coach? Because you were a competitor and you had kind of probably set your eyes on competing with going to Cornell, and then you decided that it just wasn't for you. So, how hard was it for you to make that decision? And, what was that transition like to go full-time in the coaching chair?
Yeah, it was a tough decision just because I mean I've been wrestling and competing since I was like 4 or 5 years old. So you don't really know anything different. So it's hard to decide to step away and do something different, even if it is coaching and it's obviously has its similarities. It is tough to you've been doing something your whole life to switch and do something else. So I put a lot of thought into it. It was kind of in the back of my mind. And then once I was ready to stop, I did love coaching right away. And it was something that I felt myself pulled to. I think a big adjustment is taking your energy away from yourself a little bit and putting it into your guys. And that's something that's exciting to me because it's always been pretty about me. It's kind of a sport where sometimes you have to be a little bit selfish. So it feels good to push that away and put this energy into these guys and try to give them the experiences that I've had and better.
Hmm. So recruiting is obviously a big part of coaching, and I'm sure you've sat across the table from a number of coaches that were trying to get you to come to their school. What was that experience like for you when you became that coach, where you were trying to get guys to come to Brown, and now you're going to be trying to get guys to come to Minnesota? How have you kind of seen your pitch grow, and how maybe different is it for you to espouse some of these philosophies that you have when it comes to recruiting that didn't work on you or things that did work on you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is these guys are, we're going after guys that are they're hearing a lot of information and getting a lot of information from a lot of different places. So to me, I think it's just building that relationship and being someone that these guys feel comfortable in, feel like someone that's going to be in their corner, that's going to be, like family to them. Because I do think that college wrestling and college sports can come across as a business, and it can be one way, or the other way is, it can be a group of guys that you're going to get to spend a lot of time with and get really close with. So just kind of making guys feel comfortable and knowing that we want them here and we want to make them great wrestlers, but at the same time it's really important to us that the things outside of wrestling, right, they're getting good grades, doing well academically, and being good guys around campus and around the community. We want to make sure that we're helping these guys go into the next phase of their life better men. And that's something that in the recruiting process, it's hard to really get all that across. So it's just building that relationship and making sure they know that they're going to be taken care of.
Hmm. So, you said that you've only been there just this week, but have you been around the guys yet? And what's the sense of the team that you've got since you've been there?
Yeah, I've gotten to be around the guys a little bit, and it's been great. I mean, it's cool stepping into something that's already something pretty special, and it's good to be around the guys. Anytime there's a coaching change, I'm sure it's a little bit different for them, but just trying to pretty early on, establish those relationships, let them know that, I want to be a resource to them, and just kind of trying to get them comfortable as quick as I can.
Hmm. This is the last question for you. What was kind of the pitch from Coach Eggum? Obviously, like you're applying for the job, but they also have to sell you on why Minnesota is the best. What were some of those things that Coach Eggum said to you that really convinced you that that was the perfect spot for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it kind of goes without saying, but it's just, like I said, this is a place that's had success. They've produced national champions. They've won team national championships. You're wrestling in the Big Ten and in the heart of wrestling. Minnesota is an awesome place to live and to raise a family. So all those things are things that maybe he kind of said, but at the same time, you can kind of figure it out pretty quickly. And being up here and being around everyone, you can kind of see why people are drawn to this place. So to me, it just kind of made sense with all the great things going on here that it's something that anyone would want to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, I'm super happy to see you back in the Big Ten. And, I know that you're going to make a huge impact at Minnesota. And I really appreciate you sitting down talking with me today about all the things Minnesota, as well as all the things that happened in your career. It was always a pleasure to watch you compete and really work through literally anything that you went through. So it's going to be awesome to see you in the coaching chair back in the Big Ten. Congrats on the move and good luck this season.
Sounds great. Yep. Thanks.